One of the topics I always like to talk about and think about is the origin of food and the origin of how we eat food and how it's prepared and who determined what was edible and what was not. There's a very famous myth or story or fable that coffee was discovered by a Ethiopian farmer who was out with his herd of goats and sheep, and they ate some coffee beans, and the next morning they were all energized and going crazy from the caffeine. That's how coffee was discovered. Well, who discovered then to roast it and to grind it? It's quite a fascinating story. Another story which is interesting is the fugu fish, which is a poisonous pufferfish out of the waters of Japan, and it's the consumption by humans goes back over to 300 BC. But the thing about it is that if it's not sliced properly, it will poison the consumer. It will kill them. And in the 1980s, about 54 people died from this fish. In Japan now, you have to be licensed to be able to cut the fish, and it takes 2 or 3 years of apprenticeship before somebody's licensed and able to cut it and serve it. And in the United States, there's only about 20 restaurants that are allowed to serve it. Now, I've eaten it, and I felt safe eating it because I knew that the person that had cut the fish for it had already been approved and licensed and gone through their apprenticeship. But imagine 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 300 years, 1,000 years ago, and somebody says, here, eat this fugu, eat this fish. There's a risk. I guess maybe somebody's had, they'd give it to the somebody in the village that they didn't mind losing. I don't know, but somebody had to eat it first. Somebody had to die multiple times in order to find out what part was edible. Rhubarb, I guess, is another one. If you eat the leaf of the rhubarb, it's poisonous. So you got to be careful in what you eat. But somebody obviously ate the leaf before they realized that you can die from it. So, the risk is associated with those, and you have to understand that somewhere along the line, some people have taken greater risk in developing a product. The first person to launch a product is taking more risk than the second or third. There's a story about the cutting edge and the bleeding edge. You want to be on the cutting edge, but you don't want to be on the bleeding edge. You want to be, the first person out with a product. Take the cassette player, or the DVD player, the videos cassette player. The first ones out sold for thousands. The fax machine, it'll be tough to find a fax machine in anything but a doctor's office and maybe a bank these days. But the first fax machine, I remember leasing one, and we were paying like $350 a month lease. And now I can go down and for less than $100 buy a fax machine. So the first companies out with it, that did the research, did the development, they took the risk, they came up with a new strategy, a new technology, and they launched it. Now, yes, they're protected by patents for a number of years in most markets, though some markets continue to copy it. So they're protected so that they were willing to make that investment. But they still make it. And it's how many times they make the investment and the product fails. So it's important to understand that the first person to come out with a product is going to make more profit, but their costs are also going to be higher because they don't have economies of scale. A lot of times it's best if you sit and wait instead of being the first person to eat fugu at the table, maybe be the fourth or fifth. Give other people time for it to react with them. So